and we'll go from there. All right, Daddy. Love you. All right. All right. Bro, my bad about that, man. Wrapping up, chopping
Nah,
up with
you
my
good, man. I know you're a busy man.
talking to my dad, man. I hadn't we were playing phone tag last couple of days, and so I was talking to him, try to get him on board with my new nonprofit I'm forming, and get him in there, because he like mentoring the kids and stuff. So I want to get him in there and
Yeah.
just let him do his thing. Just turn him loose in there.
Yeah, that's cool, bro. If you don't
Yeah.
mind me asking, man, how often do you and your dad talk like weekly? Y'all talk weekly or
We talk about daily.
wow.
We talk daily, and so I didn't realize that I would need him this much at 40 years old, and it just kind of put a pit in my stomach when I think about, like, man, the stuff I went through over the last couple years. Had I had to visit a graveyard and talk to a gravestone, I probably would have wanted to join them.
Wow.
But being able to talk to them and see, for me, if I'm talking to somebody I know, love, and trust, I'm gonna listen. A lot of people don't listen, and so,
Yeah.
man, he saved me. Boy, he saved me. He done saved me. He done saved my marriage. He done saved my businesses. Like,
Yeah.
and he has made every mistake himself, but I've been able to stand on his shoulders. So yeah, it's been so
Bro,
yeah.
I love that, man. That's what I want to talk about today, man, was fatherhood. Just some things you said last episode, just as I was watching you, doing what you was doing for Lil T, man, it just made me think about my dad and just like the blessing of having a father that wants to give you the world, right? But also disciplines you and makes you work for it. Like my dad would surprise me with things. I would say, Dad, I want this, but he would do it randomly. He wouldn't do it whenever I asked. Like if I won like a concert, or like even if not a concert, but like I used to compete when I was playing the sax growing up. We have like this musical thing that we would do. I can't remember the name of it right now. But anyway, I didn't even get first place. I got second place. And then I had been telling my dad I wanted a dirt bike for the longest. But after that, he took me and he got my first dirt bike. But so he was like teaching me at a young age, like, I don't mind blessing you, and God doesn't mind blessing you, but you got to put in the work and like be accountable. You got to live a certain way. And so, man, just to see you as a father, having been around you and seen you interact, with your boys, man, is beautiful to see, man. Is as a single man, like I sit back and I'm like, man, okay, what was Tony like before kids? Like when I hear it was hard for me to hear when you said like you used to be in the streets and you used to have like this different lifestyle, because I know this current version of you today. But I'm like, man, what was Tony like when he was in the streets before kids, before marriage? And what was that transition like from like, okay, now I'm married, now I got kids, like the mindset shift and like what is forced out of you in your manhood. So I just been thinking about that, bro, and just kind of want to talk about that today, as well as like share a clip that I saw.
hmm I I got my first child was at 23, Tony. So Tony the third, he was at 20. I had turned 23 March 8th, and then he came April 26th. And so he was 2.5 months early. And so having him at 23, I first used him as an excuse because he wasn't home. He was in an intensive care unit. So I used him as an excuse to go back to the streets. So, like, hey, I need to make extra money. But I was
Yeah.
only out there about a month. And so before my wife put her foot down and said, listen, I'm leaving. If you don't leave the streets, I'm leaving. And I'll be a single mom, even though we just got married a couple months ago. And so, other than that, it just was like having a child. Now I had somebody to live for who came from me. And I think as men, we separate husbandhood from fatherhood because our wife comes from another man and another family, but our child comes from us. So if a man has had any healing in his life, then he sees his child totally different because that's flesh of his flesh, blood of his blood. But ironically, it's some fathers who have nothing to do with their children. And
Yeah.
I just feel it's because they still have a hole in their heart and they haven't been loved and they haven't healed from their childhood trauma.
Yeah.
And so for me, I wanted to be in my child's life because my father was in my life. Whereas I've talked to men who they want to be in their child's life because their father wasn't in their life. So it just depends on what motivates you. Like some people are motivated by love and some people are motivated by fear. And I think, I'm motivated by love. And so I said, hey, my dad was in the house every day. So I want to name my son Tony Gaskins III. And I want to be in the home every day. And like my son, he understands me now. And what I realize is that a child wants correction from their father. And I'm gonna give you an example. Last night, we came home and I got a call from a client that's going through a crisis. So I stayed in the Sprinter on the FaceTime with my guy and I'm coaching him. And my son goes in the house and he goes in the bathroom and he takes his phone in the bathroom and he's in there. When I get out, I go in there, he's showering and he's coughing. He a little sick. And so I hear him coughing and he in the shower. And so I don't say nothing because Tatum's room is right next to it. I didn't want to wake up Tatum because he already in the bed. So I go to my wife and I'm like, I think T got his phone in the shower because it's not plugged up in the kitchen and I don't see it in his room. So it must be in the bathroom. And if he allowed to, he'll go in there and use it as like a newspaper, so to speak. And he like, Dad, you take your phone in the bathroom because I got a separate bathroom by my office. And I do. I'll be in the bathroom, my phone be in there. I'll be letting the YouTube play or whatever. And while if I'm brushing my teeth or cleaning my shoes or what have you. And so he used that as an excuse. And I'm like, son, ain't no phone in no bathroom because I don't trust what you're doing in there. So don't take that phone in there. And so and he's like, you could hear the phone, Dad. You hear the YouTube playing. I'm like, still, I don't trust it. And so when he came out, I was somewhere and I went and his lights was off in his room and he had fell asleep and because he's sick. And his phone was plugged in on the charger and it was laying on his bed. And I opened the door and I said, hey, get up and go take that NyQuil that's in there on the counter that your mom put out there for you and plug that phone up. He was like, oh, mom let me watch videos while I'm sick to help me go to sleep. I said, I don't care nothing about that, son. I said, you be trying to punk your mama. If your mama tell you something that take you off the plan that I done put you on, you better come ask me that I'm okay with you coming off the plan that I put you on. Don't be punking your mama. And I said, listen, I don't care nothing about you being sick. That's counterproductive of you watching blue light, having blue light while you trying to go to sleep.
Yeah.
And just because you coughing. And I'm like, sit there and cough until you fall asleep. But you're not finna cough and be having blue light stimulation and call yourself going to sleep.
Yeah.
He was like, all right. And it be upsetting him. But at the end of the day, I'm with my wife. Or I woke up and I got a long string of texts from him. And he said, Colorado football play Kansas this weekend. League ready CB. Kobe Bryant talking trash about AB Travis. Gonna be cinema. Travis was streaming, playing Fortnite, and he was like, Kobe talking, bet, I'm gonna give him the belt. So the fact that he texted me all this stuff about the football game, I'm like, oh, so he not mad at me for last night, for chastising him and holding him accountable.
Yeah.
And then later he texted me, Bitcoin about to hit 100K. How much do you have in it? If you got any loose money, throw it all on Bitcoin. Skyrocketing out this world. And then I
Go
put,
ahead, little T.
you know what I'm saying? So then he texted me that. So I'm like, so okay. And I noticed that about my son, that I told him he could have $5,000 yesterday to play with cryptocurrency. And in the same day, I had to get on to him about his phone. And then the next day, he back talking to me normal, even though I felt like last night he was a little upset.
Yeah.
And bro, that's
Yeah.
fatherhood. But it's
Yeah.
like a balance between love and correction.
Yeah. Man, bro, that's so powerful and so real. I think about my relationship with my dad and growing up and the dynamics of how it switched and like how you said, I like what you said about like how as men we know how to play women. Like I man, it was stuff I used to just like when I got to a certain age with my mama, like it was just certain things I knew I could say, kind of game her a little bit to get out of stuff. But my dad wasn't playing that. My dad was sticking on principle every time. And that's the important of a two-parent household to be able to have those dynamics. And just as I got older, just the phases in my life where I really needed my dad and I respected him. My dad was always, hard on me, but he always loved me. And the way that he expressed his love was different from my mother. And it's very important to have that structure and have that discipline. I think that's I'll play the clip in a little bit, but I think that's what we're lacking today in society. I think just fatherlessness is really affecting us more than we know, and like we really need healthy men. And I just remember when I decided I wanted to leave college and come back home. And I talked about this a little bit the other day. I ain't gonna go too deep into it right now, but learning when to listen to women and not, right? Like my mom, when I got back, my mom was like big on like kind of panicking, like, what you gonna do? You left college, like freaking out, like you should join the military, you should do this, you should do that, like trying to give me input. Versus my dad was like, like I raised you to be a man, like you figure it out, like this is your season. And so I remember having a conversation with my mom one day. I was just like, listen, mom, like I love you, and I mean this respectfully, but I was like, you got to stop trying to tell me what to do and let me figure it out as a man. And she respected that. Like we had that conversation. It wasn't, like no argument or nothing, but she was just always on me, like, what you gonna do? You got to do this, got to do that. And I was just like, mom, let me be a man. I'm not a little boy no more. Like that mothering instinct of a woman is always going to be there, but there comes a time and place, like as you step into your manhood, where you step away. And I found myself really connecting with my dad more as I kind of like got into like my early 20s, like trying to figure things out. I would go and figure it out and try something. And I would come back and say, Dad, like I tried this. Like, what's your thoughts on this? I wanted to pick his brain, like you think I should do this? Like that iron sharpening iron. I know he's gonna give me tough love and shoot it straight and say, nah, son, that's stupid. And I remember, one time when I turned 23 and I had moved back home and I was trying to figure out my next business venture. He's like, listen, son, he's like, you're not going to be young forever. He's just like, it's good that you explore. You took your time in your 20s to try different things out. But he's like, man, don't keep wasting time. He's like, the clock will keep ticking and you'll wake up and life will pass you by if you don't learn to stick to one thing and to be disciplined with it and see it through. He's like, there's nothing's going to happen overnight. Slow growth is the best growth. Like pick one thing and stick to it, like it was just different transitions. Just as I now being at 30, just our conversations, how they change. And I can only imagine what your conversations are like with your father now at 40. And, I'm super grateful having a father because it's like a superpower, like it's really a leg up, to be able to have a man that birthed you, to guide you and to give you wisdom on how to navigate life, especially as black men, like as a boy, my dad was raising me to be a man. I remember at 8 years old, my dad taught me to drive. We had Hurricane Ivan that had just hit. And it was when I woke up, it was just like a bomb went off. It was trees and stuff down everywhere. And my dad was like, listen, like we got a lot of people out here that need help. Like, you're gonna come with me. I'm gonna show you how to use this chainsaw. You're gonna drive the truck. And like, I'm not gonna be watching you and babying you. I'm gonna show you how to use this. And I expect for you to be a man and to pay attention to what you're doing. So at 8 years old, bro, I'm driving through the streets. I'm pulling out with a chainsaw, cutting stuff down for people, and they looking at like, man, it's an 8-year-old like driving and doing this. But my dad always understood that I got to train him now. Like all that baby in him and like, no, he can't do that, or like just all that extra soft stuff. That was the balance between my mother and father, where my mother was heavy on education. My father was heavy on work ethic and his foundation with God and instilling that at an early age. And so, man, having a healthy father, right? Because I understand everybody don't have that, but man, having a healthy father is such a beautiful thing. And now as a single man, like seeing some of my homies that I grew up with now fathers, and then being able to see people like yourself, throughout their process of fatherhood, it makes me like as a man, like just question like, who will I be as a father? How will I change as a father? What are the things that I want to instill into my son? And so, before I play the clip, I got one question for you, bro. Like, what was that first moment like whenever you first held Lil T? Like, this is your firstborn child. Like, did it switch immediately for you? Like, man, I'm a father now. Did it switch on like when your wife was pregnant, or was it like after the fact, like once you held him, or was it a little later after like he grew up a little bit?
For me, it was after he grew up a little bit, but I think it had to do with just where I was transitioning from, just transitioning from trying to be tough, trying to be cool, and just being 23, not knowing anything about being a father. And then I feel like I probably had brain trauma from playing football in college because the whole time I was in college for the 3 years, I was on the scout team majority of the time because I was always injured. And so whenever I would come back, I had to start over. And, I started as a freshman one game and I had 2 fumbles. And I just wasn't locked in and focused. I was chasing so many women, dealing with women, and then I started, selling drugs at the college, to the teammates and other people and stuff. And so I just wasn't focused. So when I had my son, it took me a little bit of time to like soften up because I'm coming from combat and football and then combat in the streets, which is basically spiritual warfare combat. And then I got this baby. And so when I was alone with him, I didn't really know what to do and like how to change a diaper and how to hold him and caress him. And he would just cry and just scream. He had like, I don't know what was going on with him, but I think he had acid reflux. And so he had acid reflux real bad. So he would just be screaming, screaming, screaming. And I just felt helpless. I felt helpless. I felt like I was losing my mind. I felt like I wanted to kill both of us
Mm,
because it was like imagine like Duke, your dog, right? Imagine he come up beside you and he just start "Arr, arr," and you like, dude, what's wrong? Dude, what's wrong? Hey,
yeah.
come on, boy. And you "Arr, arr," and he just keep doing that. And imagine he does that nonstop for an hour.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
you like, you can't see no blood, you can't see no pain, and nothing you say, he responds to it. He
Wow.
don't respond to nothing you say. Then so now you like, well, is he sick? Let me go to the doctor. You go to the doctor, ain't nothing wrong with him. He got puppy colic. This is called dog colic. It's just something in his throat, and he just gonna do this all day long. You're gonna feel like losing your mind because
Yeah.
not only you thinking about your sanity, but you thinking about next door neighbor. So, bro, it was in that moment that I learned, like, boy, you learn so much, but I learned, oh, this is what happens. This was the antecedent behavior or the precursor to this man that I just watched on the news who took his baby life from shaken baby syndrome.
Yeah.
This is the guy. This is what happened before this guy hit his stepson in the face, and it gave him a brain contusion, and he died.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, bro, you really start to realize like you have to be emotionally intelligent on a level like none other. And then I remember turning on the news and seeing a woman had taken the life of her 2 kids. Another woman had taken the life of her 4 kids. So I'm like, this ain't just men who struggling with this non-communication, because for me, that's why I don't like animals. Like I don't like dogs because they don't speak English. And I struggle with that. Like if you don't communicate, I struggle because I'm a communicator and I'm not good with like body language and just stuff.
Yeah.
And so for me, I just didn't know what was going on with my son until like 5 years old. At like 5 years old, really like 2, 3, we rustling, tussling, we having fun. I let her put on the gloves and box me and stuff like that. I didn't get to do all that with Tayden. And so my wife, she was kind of looking at me and she would kind of try to blame me for Tayden being soft. Tayden is a lot softer than T. She was like, you would wrestle with T, you would play with him every day, you would be wrestling and doing all that. I'm like, it has nothing to do with that. T would have been like that regardless because that's his personality.
Yeah.
Like Tatum has my personality. We very passive. We very chill. We very quiet. But I'm like, don't get it twisted. Tatum the killer. But he know when to use it. He just always on. He always on 10.
Yeah.
Tatum, if you push him. And so that's the thing, bro. It takes some time. And honestly, that developed my message to women of never leave your baby alone with a man. That's where it came from.
Mm.
Me being alone with my son, knowing that I love him with all my heart, but knowing that I felt inadequate, incapable, and knowing that I would never do anything to hurt him, but knowing that had I not had any relationship with God, a father in my life, I can imagine what I would have went to being alone with a baby that won't stop crying. Whether that's me doing something to myself or whether that's
Yeah.
me doing something to the child to the point of trying to get the child to be quiet
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
it going too far.
Yeah.
And bro, this happening thousands of times throughout the country, let alone the world, every day. But we don't have enough space on the news to show all of the incidents.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then 90% to 99% of kids live through the trauma. Like they live through being dropped on their head,
Yeah.
being punched in their chest, punched in their lobe, frontal lobe. Like they live through the stuff.
Yeah.
And so, because we meet the people who tell us stories about, the guy I was coaching the other night in the sprinter was telling me about how his dad come from the military and was a high ranking in the military and used to abuse him and the stuff his dad would do to him. And now when I see him as a grown man, I'm like, that's why you so vicious. That's why you don't fear no man. That's why you so relentless in whatever you doing because of the abuse you suffered that should have warped your brain or taken your life, but God made children resilient. And so, brothers, the stories that adults could tell about what they suffered at the hands of their mother or the hands of their father,
Yeah.
totally different from you and I.
Yeah.
Like we are an anomaly when it
Yeah.
comes to what we live through with our parents.
Yeah. Yeah.
Especially you now. You on another level than me. Like, bruh, your story has no relation. Like, you so blessed. I'm telling you, bruh. Cause me and you done talk. Like my mama, she done beat me till I bled. Like, just on accident. Just hit me with that belt. Bam, bam, bam. Cut my leg open.
Wow.
Blood coming out. Purple get around it. My dad had to stop my mom from being allowed to chastise me
Wow.
because she would let so much stuff go. She would let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. And then when she whooped me, she whooping me, as they used to say, for the old and the new.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm a kid. So you hit
Yeah.
me with this cheap raggedy belt, with this raggedy plastic. Whereas my dad, his discipline, it was more so the lesson. Son, open your hand. He hit me with the back of a cone. It just sting. But what it's doing here, it's like that. Dude, no. Get over here. Sit down.
Yeah.
It was the lesson more so than the pain.
Yeah.
To where he didn't have to hit me hard. He didn't have to make me bleed. He didn't have to leave a welt. It was just, let's stop. This what you did wrong. This the consequences you finna get. That right there hurt me worse than being whooped with a switch.
Yeah. 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 I heard somebody say once, like when a mother gives punishment, it's out of emotion, and when a father does it, it's out of logic. And so it's a different in a way, because like, man, I got plenty of weapons from my mama growing up. um and I'm not like trying to say my mom was soft on me by any means, but it's different when my dad, I got three. I know I only got three whoopings my whole life from my dad because it was memorable. It was like, okay, don't cross the line. Like boys will do that. Like we'll try our mama, right? Like we know how far we can go because that's where we start to learn the game of how to emotionally pull on a woman. It starts at home. It starts with our mother. But when daddy comes in and he says, "Hey, sit down," I said, "Sit down." like, all right, hey, I need to sit down. It's that structure, that backbone of the discipline being in a household, I think is very important. And little things, just even as I got older and I made mistakes. I remember I did something at church one time, being fast, sneaking, talking to girls, doing stuff I shouldn't have been, right? And my dad taught me a lesson about character. He's like, listen, man, like, we don't know who all knows about this at the church. He's like, man, having a good name is important. He's like, you want to take care of your name. And if you did something wrong, you want to own up to it as a man. So my dad made me get up in front of the whole church and apologize for something that I did at like 13, 14 years old. But it taught me at an early age, like, man, like, okay, this ain't the way. Like, you want to keep a good name. You want to be a man of character. So just like little things that a father teaches as well as a mother, backing him and instilling those lessons growing up, man, is so powerful. Childhood is very important. Either we all have a little bit of childhood trauma that we suffer from, but childhood lessons learned, principles, labor, work ethic, education, all of those things, as we get older, we use those to elevate, or we use them to say as an excuse, have a victim mentality that, man, I can't become better or do different because I didn't have this or this happened to me as a child, and I understand everybody got different backgrounds, but get into a place in your adulthood where you just own you and you just say, you know what, like, I got to learn to listen to myself. I got to learn to be able to listen to God within me, take the lessons that you learn, and really understanding where the Bible says, honor your mother and your father, and your days will be long, like what that really means. And I think it's so funny because when I hear you talk about Lil T, honestly, bro, I feel like me and Lil T can relate more because I feel like the upbringing that you given him is the upbringing that my parents and my father gave me, blessing me with certain things and experiences. And even just, bro, as I was hearing you talk about the differences between Tatum and T, it makes me think about like who you were when you went to procreate with your wife to create T, right? Like shortly just finishing playing football. So you still got that combativeness in you, that athlete, and then maturing a little bit more. And then you have, Tatum. And so like you're milder, but it's still in there. You just learn how to control it and flip that switch on and off. Where little T probably just keep it on. He always on go mode because that's where you were at the time. So I've even been thinking about just how powerful our DNA is as men when we go into the womb to procreate. Like literally who we are at that time, we print out, into a woman. And so, man, it's interesting just seeing the dynamics, hearing it and learning it from you, bro, is very cool, bro.
I
Just
never thought about that, what you just said, but I didn't think about that. And I don't know, like, if it's science, but it made perfect sense. Like I was a totally different person when I had T than when I had Tatum. And they are complete opposite kids, but I was a complete opposite person too. And so it's like I never thought about it like that, but and I was so like Tatum for me is almost like, and I hate to use this term, but he almost like my daughter, meaning in the sense of I have two boys, but I'm soft on him like I would be if he was my daughter. I'm not
okay.
I'm not hard on him, but I'm stern with him,
Yeah.
but I don't have to be hard on him.
His
Like
spirit's different.
his spirit different. Like if I talk to him, Tatum, now listen, as soon as I say that, bro, his eyes water up. And when I'm talking to him, he got big old eyes like I do. And he go to blinking. He trying to fight the tears. He go to blinking. Bruh, I have to go into psycho kill mode to make T cry. And I don't even go to that mode.
Yeah.
Bro, I have made my oldest son cry probably twice in 17 years. He is so tough. His skin is so thick. He feel everything though, but he like his mom, they internalize. Whereas me
Yeah.
and Tatum, wind blow, we crying.
Yeah.
We crying. But we actually just as tough, just as whatever, but it's just we wear our hearts on our sleeves.
Yeah.
And and we both, even our birthdays are close, like so that was weird to me because I'm like, man, he a lot like me. He born 2 days before me. And I'm
Mm,
like, man, that's kind of weird that this, and everybody say, man, Tatum look just like you. Tatum look just like you. T look more like his mom. You can see you too though, but Tatum look just like you. And it's just so with him, I understand his personality more because it's more like my personality.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then so I don't have to do as much and say as much. Whereas T is more like my wife personality. And I say that what you said about your dad making you talk in front of the church, mom might have let you off the hook out of even just her own embarrassment of like,
Yeah.
I don't want my baby standing up there saying that, people looking
Yeah.
at me crazy,
Yeah.
and oh, this your son doing this at the church, and
Yeah. Yeah.
but dad, like, no, it is what it is. Get up there and get this lesson.
Yeah.
And I did the same thing to T. Like a week ago, he was like in the game and he got beside himself and he was just showing too much negative emotion. And I tell him, don't talk to your teammates like a disgruntled stepdad, like, treating them like a redhead stepchild, as the saying say. You not all that. Like, you ain't that much better than they are. Talk to them with respect and uplift them
Yeah.
with your correction. And we just get beside ourselves sometimes. And so I said, take your phone out right now and email the coach. And you send him an apology for your lack of emotional intelligence. And you tell him that it'll never happen again. And he pulled out that phone and he went and emailed it and he sent that coach that letter and tell him, like, Coach, I apologize. He done had to do that to the coach, and he done had to do that to about 2 or 3 teachers in his
Yeah.
12 years of school.
Wow.
And I am the one that prompt that and get him to do that. Whereas mama, it don't even cross her mind because a woman is more forgiving. And I've been telling my wife for the last couple of years, like, babe, you raising a terror for their wife. I said, because you don't work, so you don't have the exhaustion that a woman who works 40 hours a week and has kids has. So when you open their ketchup packet and you squirt the ketchup out for them instead of letting them do for themselves. And I've been telling my wife, I said, baby, when you come home, I said, don't ask me, can I get the water out the trunk when you got a 17-year-old that I'm funding his entire lifestyle.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not doing nothing around this house when this 17-year-old is here. I
Yeah.
say, we have to teach this boy how to live on his own.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, bruh, I have my son around there. Son, hey, go take the trash out. Hey, take the recycling out. Hey, son, do me a favor. Go get all them the 4 packs of water, the 48 packs. Get both of those and take those to the garage refrigerator and unpack those, put them in the refrigerator. I
Yeah.
just be working them, just
Yeah.
teaching them. And I
Yeah.
had to get on the other day, like, son, stop feeling like, because he have a life to where he's like, hey, mom, can you buy some steaks, some filet mignon, and some ribeyes? And can you get some salmon? And then can you make the salmon for me? And this week for lunch, I want salmon and rice and broccoli. And then for breakfast, I want steak and eggs. Bro, that's my
Mm.
son life.
Yeah.
And my wife being there steak and eggs. And
Hey, that's a blessing.
one day he ate 12 boiled eggs. I went off. I'm like, boy, you ate 12. You ain't the only one got to eat, boy. And so I'm telling my wife, I'm like, I'm gonna have to pull his wife to the side and say, listen, the boy was raised like a king.
Bro, on that, bro, that's so real, man. Because I think, because we don't have some conversations, and I think about my mother, and I've said before, I'm a traditional man with a modern twist, but I'm a byproduct of 2 ambitious parents. My dad was an entrepreneur, my mom was a career woman, went on to school, got her master's degree. My mom would work full-time every week and still come home every night and cook a meal, right? Like, so I had fresh food every week and breakfast every morning. And so, like, yeah, my side, I've had to, like, okay, kind of let me get back to a base level when dating and like what I'm looking for. But
bro, do this for me though, real quick. Try to remember, maybe if it was even your 12th grade year, of like a week of meals, a week of dinners that your mom would make.
yeah, man, roast beef would be one. So it wasn't like every day, probably every other day, but roast beef, potatoes, collard greens, rice, cornbread. Another meal would be she would do like a lasagna, you know, something quick to her. That would be a lasagna. She'd do baked chicken, candy yams. Man, my mom is a cook. My mom's a southern cook, and my mom bakes. Man, every time like as I've gotten older, I come home. She's like, "Baby, when you come home, baking me a cake." You know, man, yeah, man, like real food, like real southern cooking, man, fresh. You know, like me and my dad, like so I was raised too, like I was raised to maintain the house. So like I did all the outside chores with my dad at an early age. I'm on the lawnmower cutting the grass. I'm using the weed eater, chainsaws, all that as a kid. And I'll come in the house on a Saturday night after me and my dad done and food on the table, you know, like so I'm growing up with this mentality, right? But even just like disciplinary actions or just like hard work ethic, like man, I remember I had a pee-wee football game that I start probably around like 1 or 2 in the afternoon. My dad would say, "Man, you still got to cut the grass before that game. I care nothing about that game." Like I had to cut the whole yard, bro. We had a big yard, bro, and I did it all by myself. But little things like that, like it shapes who you're going to be as a man, and also it makes me think about how you wrote about a woman's influence. A woman influences a man where a father inspires, right? A little boy looks up to his father as a hero, and heroes inspire because you can see yourself in this image. You want to become that, but then you take the love and the emotional intelligence of the woman, and that fuels that together. I think about the design of how God made man and woman, and that dynamic together, bro, is powerful. But yeah, boy, my mama can cook, man, bro. Whoever. That's why, man, I'm just now cooking, bro. Like I hate cooking, but I was spoiled growing up. My mom cooked all the time, and so, man, I had to stop saying that on dates. I'm like, yeah, I don't cook. I was on a date one time. This girl's like, "Well, I'm looking for a man that can cook." I'm like, "Dang, boy, we in 2024, man. It's a different world."
It's a different world, and just getting the meals like that, that's another anomaly, bro. It's like because you had a mom that can cook, and I've met some women through like coaching and stuff who can cook, but your average everyday woman doesn't know how to cook. Like it's hit or miss. Like
Yeah,
and especially your average everyday person when you
yeah,
consider men and women, like
yeah,
1% of people know how to cook.
yeah.
Like
I
it's
can cook
just
now to survive. I ain't don't come over and say, "Hey, man, like, can you whip something up? You want to eat and survive and get some nutrients? I got you. Don't worry about the taste."
yeah, you can't worry about that taste. I'm telling you. And so that's the thing right there to where I've had to learn just being a father and then my wife being the mom of like you can't really have a blueprint or a plan. Like in this, you have to look at what is going to be the fingerprint of your household.
Yeah,
And it may be completely different than your upbringing.
yeah,
And because I grew up with a mom that she's the baby of 12 and they grew up in a very, I don't know what you would call it, toxic environment, like my mom and her siblings. And so my mom was the type of woman, and you tell me if you ever heard this from your mom, and that'll see if there's a difference there. But my mom from the South, Central Florida, and she was the type to where she worked in the office, at State Farm in the office, in the AC, in a chair like this, at the desk doing claims or whatever. And then my dad worked in the elements. He was a lineman, work on the power lines.
yeah,
So anytime and before that he was a police officer. And so he worked in the elements. So he would come home and be like, uh, hey babe, you cook something? You gonna cook? And my mama, I remember I hear it like a broken record in my head. I work 40 hours like you do. You cook. I ain't cooking. And so I
yeah,
grew up, bro, to where I could remember one home cooked meal, and that was spaghetti with crab salad and garlic bread. And that would be maybe once a week, maybe once every 2 weeks.
yeah,
Every night other than that was like tonight is Whopper from Burger King. The next night is nuggets from McDonald's. The next night is Popeyes. The next night is Pizza Hut. It was just processed food. Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy. I had an 8 pack of abs and was an athlete because all I ate was processed food.
You got them good genetics, bro.
You know what I'm saying? Them genetics was serving me. And then when we didn't have out to eat, it was, and my mama didn't cook, she'd be like, eat a bowl of cereal. And so it's countless nights that my dinner was Tony the Tiger, Frosted Flakes. And then other than that, it would be like, or make your own food, like spam sandwich. You know,
Yeah.
you used to eat spam back in the day out the can
Yeah.
and put
Yeah.
it on the pan and fry it.
That
And
fried
so
spam ain't no joke though.
I'm telling you, man. So it was just like piecemeal, just like you
Yeah.
just it was never like, and when she would cook, we would sit down as a family and eat, but it just would be at the most, I feel like twice a week, and
Yeah.
that probably would happen a couple times in a row. And my mama, she, she cool with it. She know it. Like, she know, like, I wasn't with that. I am not that type
Yeah.
of person.
Yeah.
And so for me, my expectations is totally different. So like at my house, we pretty much eat out every night because I that's how I grew up. So I don't. So my wife doesn't have that stipulation on her of, oh, you got to cook
Yeah.
4 days a week, 3 days a week,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's one
Man,
of them things.
bro, it's funny, man. My mom called me last night just to check on me because there was some bad weather up this way. And she was just like, I was like, what y'all doing? She's like, we just got home from church. I just, got your daddy food ready. So when he come in, he could eat. But the reason my mom is like that is because her mother raised her like this. My mother grew up in a very traditional household. My grandmother, grew up in an area and time period to where when she was in like third grade and supposed to be going to school, she had to go out into the field and was picking cotton.
What city?
This isn't like Chipley, Mariana, Florida, out in the
Mhm.
country. I think we rode through there one time. It was dark, but man, I gotta take you during the daytime, man. Take you to the country for real. But
Yeah.
similar, because Bartow, that whole area, the orange groves, we had, family back and forth. But back during that time, that was all that we as a people had. And but just long story short, my mother is the way she is because of her mother, but also her upbringing gave her a drive to want more in education. So that's what my mother like wanted to be a career woman, but also knew she wanted to be a mother. So she did both, and like it wasn't a pain or burden to her. It was just second nature because she grew up that way. It's like she chose to be and do the career part as well. But like I needed that, like again, like my mom and dad are different. My dad went to the military, was Army infantry, more blue collar. So the skills that I got from my dad are his faith, right? Understanding who God is, learning to work with my hands so I could change a tire, I could change oil, I could paint a house, I could do the yard. Like I come equipped with that. And with my mother, like was really heavy on education, reading, she taught me how to be independent at an early age too. And so like as I got into adulthood and I stepped out, it was hard for her to let go of that being mama bear, right? Like even when I went off to college, like I went to school in DC and like that was so far away from her. And she just like, I know that like hurt her a little bit because a mother wants to keep you close. But man, it's so funny now, like because my mom just knows me now, she's allowed me to just flourish and be, especially like it's cool because like my mom worked for me in a sort, now. And so like her being able to see like, all right, when I was like 22, 23, trying to figure out what I was going to do. I'm like, mom, no, I'm really going all in on this business thing. Like, stop trying to tell me what to do respectfully. And then my dad telling me like sternly, like, all right, well, hey, you got to put up or shut up. Like if you really like about this, like being an entrepreneur, go show me. Don't tell me and talk to me about nothing. Like be a man of actions and let it be louder than words. And so to see now, fast forward to be at 30, man, and just to have been able to bless, my parents in a certain way, man. I'm so thankful because I owe them the world because of what they've done for me and the lifestyle they afforded me to have. And bro, just so thankful for family, and then just so thankful for a two-parent household, man. And just again, like I want to see more fathers. I want to be able to share more and talk about, these type of stories with other men. And also just seeing some of the homies I grew up with who didn't have fathers and then now see them married, and like I got a homie that got three boys, and just seeing him grow and mature as a man and just seeing how patient he is, and how like fatherhood has changed him is just like it make me again just think about myself, like man, like I think I know how I'm gonna be as a father, but you don't know until that moment happened and it's right in front of you. You know, that commitment to one woman, you know, seeing your child come out and now you're holding it in your hands. Like, man, just the phases of evolving as a man that we're supposed to go through, especially when we're founded on God, right? Like without God, like, yeah, like there's destruction and other things that can happen. But man, just when we do it the right way, because something that my dad taught me as a kid, you know, he said, like, son, who you are when you lay down with a woman and you go into her womb, that's what's going to come out in that child. So whatever the demons that you are entertaining in the dark that you don't talk about is going to come out in that child, you know. And so that's why that concept earlier where I said that, like, my dad taught me that at an early age. It's like, you know, this is why you be careful, like, with who you procreate with, you know, because I come from a background of most of the men in my family have been divorced and married multiple times, you know, and had kids outside of wedlock, you know. And so, like, for me, like, I want to break that generational curse. And so, like, my dad, before he had me, my dad had gave his life to Christ. And so he said, you know, like, had I not given my life to Christ, your life would have been in a totally different plane that you'd be able to relate to, you know. So, like, that's when my dad was just always big on just my relationship with God. He made me memorize Psalms 1, you know, when I got to like middle school. You know, he made me read that every day. It was just like, man, you different. Like, don't try and fit in and be like the crowd. You know, like, there's a light on you. He always say, man, you can't see you, but I can see you, and it's my duty as a father to raise you up to be like who God has called you to be. But it's up to you to follow and choose it for yourself. You know, so man, yeah, fatherhood is so beautiful. We need more healthy men and just healthy masculinity and just being able to balance out the two, you know, like just even just thinking about now as a man, how I think, like, it's not many men that inspire me because, like I said earlier, a woman gives influence, a man inspires. So my father being in my life, I have a superhero of a father to compare other men to, you know. So that's when I knew when I met you and I rubbed up against you and that iron sharpens iron, like that's how I knew, like, okay, like this is somebody that I can allow to speak into my life because you have that same foundation and structure, but you also know God, you know. And so for me as a man, like that, like I gauge friendships and other people like based off of that. Like the foundation of your childhood is so important. Even again, even in dating, the women that I encounter is like, man, my mother is a hustler, you know, my mom is a hard worker, you know. So it's like some of the stuff that I hear today, that's something like, man, like I hear that, but like I guess I'm an anomaly of sorts, but it makes me not, that don't mean I want to lower my standards either, you know. I think I would much rather keep my standards and be single than just settle just to be married for the sake of, you know, like how I was raised and who I am, that legacy, though it wasn't perfect, but man, I want to carry that on, you know.
Hmm. As you were talking, I was thinking that one thing I've noticed from working with young men since 2010 at the top 100 basketball camp, where I'm working with the top 100 basketball players in the country, and then I work with the 60 NBA draft picks. The only guys that would connect with me and come to me were guys who didn't have a father in the home.
Hmm.
That a man who has a good father needs nothing. Like the guys who father lived in their house, majority of them did not connect with me. It was some who did, but even those guys who did, it was like their father was like in and out of the streets, or he could have been abusive, or he could have been like distant or not supportive of their career,
Yeah.
even though he lived in the home. But the
Yeah.
men who had an active, devoted, committed father, they had no need for me. Like, they, hey, how you doing? You know, shake a hand, but they would not come to me for advice. None of that.
Yeah.
Very few. Yes, it's a few here and there, but those are exceptions to the rule. But I'm saying on average,
Yeah.
and that's what. And as we talking too, man, my heart goes out to the single moms who really like are crying,
Yeah.
literally crying because their son doesn't have a father,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
trying to figure that out. And that's why we trying to do the best that we can to be a role model to young men. And then I also am thinking about the men who are estranged from their children, and just say and do everything you can to be in your child life. Like,
Yeah.
swallow the ego, swallow the pain, like get over, like don't worry about the woman, pay what you gotta pay, whatever child support, like go broke for your child. If that's what she requires, she got to answer to God for that.
Yeah.
Or go or take her to court, fight for custody, fight for 50-50. Do what you gotta do to be in your child's life. Don't be dismissive, don't be distant. Get in your child's life, make it up to
Yeah.
your child, be there for your child. And if you a man and you got a child, the key word, which I wish I made it up, is emotional intelligence. And because I ain't make it up, I try to say emotional regulation, which that probably already existed too. But that's the key word for every man, to where even this today, with me having a 17-year-old son, I still fail. I still fail when I get too hot under the collar. And I say I'm a little too aggressive. And I'm like, man. But then I remind myself, nobody does it perfect.
Yeah.
Like nobody does it perfect. Like our fathers were tough, what we call hard but fair. But honestly, I think they could have pushed us a little harder. I think they could have pushed us even a little harder in love, and it wouldn't have broke us. And what I mean by that is, like, just even just with the discipline and the routine of, like, hey, go to bed 9:30.
Yeah.
Get up at get up at 6 and go train. Go outside to the weight bench and train.
Yeah.
30 minutes. Come in the house and shower, then you go to school. Like
Yeah.
even stuff like that, I don't think it would have broke us. I don't think, and I see stuff like that. It's a guy in the NFL named Christian McCaffrey, and his dad, his bedtime was 9 o'clock. And this is a white boy in the NFL running like a black boy. Excuse the comparison, but it's just the reality.
Yeah.
We rarely see white running backs in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this guy is fast, but his dad was a 3-time, I think, Super Bowl champion.
Yeah.
So he knew what it took to be great.
Yeah.
And I showed that to my son. I said, son, imagine if I made you go to bed at 9 o'clock every night. When last night he went to bed at midnight. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like it didn't break this man. We watching this man in interviews. He healthy, he whole,
Yeah.
he married.
Yeah.
That discipline did not destroy him.
Yeah.
It
Same
it
with
made him.
Kobe. Kobe's dad. That's why Kobe is, what he was, that discipline, that structure, that Mamba mentality, like being able to turn that dog on, like knowing that part that of a man that might from some people be looked at as toxic masculinity, learning how to use that to your advantage, learning how to in a healthy way, suppress your emotions and do what you got to do, you know? Like, man, like I'm thankful that, my dad instilled that into me because I've had those thoughts too. Like, man, my dad could have probably been a little bit harder on me, but then I had to think back of like what my dad was coming from. Like, I remember my dad telling me growing up, like listening to Dr. King, like you hearing it on the radio, like the era that, they coming from, the hard life that they had to live, having not that many opportunities, especially being a black man from the South. So my dad wanted to be hard on me, but also to love me as much as he could while he could, because of what he saw growing up, and what
Same with
his
my dad.
father and grandfather saw growing up. And you hearing these stories passed down about like different things. So like I understand it and I count it all joy. I'm thankful for it. But yeah, bro, it make you think, man, just
And that's
how.
what it was too. Like what you said, that's when I had a period I wanted to resent my dad because I was naturally more athletic than all my peers. But I had no athletic discipline from my dad. And so I wanted to resent him for me not getting to the NFL because guys who I was better than ran circles around got to the NFL because their dad was more disciplined and had more structure. But then when I sought to understand, I saw why my dad loved me with a gentle strength. And it's because his mom was murdered at 7 when he was 7. And then his dad was already gone and had to come back home to raise him and his 11 siblings. And so him being the baby, he really didn't get the physical touch and guidance and love from his father. It was like a distant, like get to talk to you, get to see you, learn a couple things. But
Yeah.
my dad probably could tell me like 5 things that his dad said to him. Whereas
Yeah.
if you and I sat down to tell somebody all that our dads had said to us, we'll have a book.
Yeah.
And he was taken care of by his older brothers. His dad would make all of them give him a piece of their money that they worked for. So he was the baby. He was spoiled.
Yeah.
And my dad never played a sport. So he didn't have to play football, basketball, track. He was just a kid
Yeah.
and grew up and went to like ROTC and went to the army, graduated early, took the GED test, didn't even walk with the rest of the class. Like just went into adulthood, and
Yeah.
went to the army right out of high school. And his
Yeah.
dad died when he was 18 or 19 while he was in the army. And so I'm like, I can't be mad at my dad because he didn't know what it take to be a college athlete, to be a pro athlete, because he never played organized sports. Being the
Right.
baby of 12, who finna take him to practice?
Right. Right.
And everybody living their life.
Right.
And so we are, a lot of time we're the product of the product, like what they went through, and we get a certain type of love, and they want to love us and be gentle and soft enough on us because of what they had to go through in the world. Like what you said, they coming out of Jim Crow, they in Jim Crow,
Yeah. Yeah.
they in separate and unequal, and then
Yeah.
they in the beginning of whatever it was, integration.
Yeah.
But they in systemic racism and all of this stuff in the real trenches of it.
Yeah. Yeah. We
And they
not just, bro. Statistically, you and I are not supposed to be where we're at. Like, even
right.
though we have an idea of like where we could have been and gone, like we're not even supposed to be there statistically,
Mm-hmm.
Like, so we really are the 2.0 version of our fathers and our mother, like not to get to discredit them, but yeah, man, like it's deep once we think on it, man. And just even today, it just makes me like respect my parents so much more. And then especially like I got some peers that's going through it that really want to be in their son's life, but they did things outside of the confines of with God being the head and had a baby by a girl, and now she's using the child as leverage because now you don't want to love me, I'm not gonna let you see the child. Like I've seen that manipulation like take place, bro, and that's sad too. Just man, just fool. My dad, my great grandfather used to tell my dad, "Court who you please, but mind who you marry." And
Say that
my
again
dad
now.
always joke with me,
Say that again.
court who you please, but mind who you marry.
Mm.
Like date a girl, get to know her, but man, be careful who you lock up with, have a baby with, and put a ring on their finger because it's till death do you part. That's how they were raised, And so my dad would always joke with me and tell me that growing up, and it stuck with me. Though I made my mistakes and did my dirt and what I did, like I knew, like, all right, cool, I'm not about to have no baby, and and who I bring home to my parents. It's one thing, like, okay, yo, bro, like check out this girl I'm talking to. It's another, like, hey, mom, dad, like this is such and such. I want to bring her by the house, like those type of encounters, like somebody you really taking serious, because I was taught to date to marry. So man, just all those little things, man, as I look back over my experience and just again, just this chapter of being a single man and being able to talk to you and to hear your experiences and to just like your change. Cause it's funny when I hear stories about my dad, like some of the stuff that he did when he was young. Like I done heard my dad, some stories about my dad shooting at some people and just, being very physical and rowdy at times. And I'm like, man, ain't no way. But it goes to show me how real God is. Cause when I can hear people who knew my dad for who he used to be, but to see who my dad is as a man and to see like just who he is spiritually and how serious he is about his faith, it shows me God really is real and anybody can be changed, because my dad didn't really have a healthy father around. My dad told me just like growing up, it would be the old man talking under the shade tree and they would be saying like, man, you ain't got you none yet, man. Hey, man, you still wet behind the ear, like, man, you supposed to be getting you something, like being taught the wrong way. And then his father was kind of in and out of the house and, had other families. It's kind of like stuff like that. So statistically, he shouldn't have been a great father. But again, it just goes to show when you align your life with God, he will give you wisdom. He will give you knowledge and understanding, emotional intelligence, things that you can't get from other places because you didn't see it growing up. And so, man, just like we all like the grace of God, man. Like we can all overcome whatever we came through. So anybody watching this today, that's like my love to you all today is like you are bigger than your environment, but you got to trust a big God. It can't be you, you know?
That's powerful. That's powerful. Lean on God, because God is a changing force. And I think about that same thing. And it's crazy that you're saying the same thing about statistically what happened should not have happened. Because I'm like, you know what? I can't be mad at my mom and dad about anything, because what they lived through, both of them are the baby of 12. And both of them had siblings who were right above them who got addicted to cocaine or alcohol or
Yeah,
some kind of drug. And I never saw my parents do a drug, never saw them smoking, never saw them drinking. My
yeah,
parents never even curse.
yeah,
They
yeah,
got saved when I was 6 years old, and they literally became just the roses that grew from concrete, because none of their other siblings lived on the level that they lived on, like at
yeah,
that the level of purity and the level of peace and consistency.
yeah,
And so, and I look at that, I say, okay, if my mom died when I was 7, and if my dad died when I was 18, would I be the man that I am and be in the house every day, loving, caring, gentle, consistent, providing like my father was?
yeah,
The answer is no.
yeah,
I would not have been able to do that. And then when I look at my mom and I'm like, she was raised by a single mom with 11 siblings.
yeah,
And she didn't know her dad. Like she wasn't raised by her dad. And so I'm like, okay, I get it. How the little feistiness that was in her, she was raised by women who was killers. Like all my aunties killers. Like I mean, the most vicious.
had a
They'll whoop a
switchblade in their bra.
Yes, they will whoop a man. Like they'll come over to my grandma's house and they got they partner with them, male or female, and half of the person's skin gone.
Oh, dang.
And I'm like, what happened to them? Your auntie threw hot grease in their face. I'm like, what? I'm talking to my grandma. She telling stories about biting her husband finger off. They
Oh
got
my
into
goodness.
it. He went to swing or grab her. She say she got that hand, got that and bit his finger off. She telling me when she threw hot grits, hot water in these men's face. I'm like, this what my mom come from.
Yeah,
And so I'm
yeah,
like, I can't even, that little bit of feistiness in her, I can't blame her for that.
yeah, yeah,
And so, bro, this real, man. And not just, I know we talking about fatherhood, but I definitely want the moms to also just think about their motherhood, which we can't speak from that.
yeah,
As you know, we could talk about our moms, but for everybody listening, like just in wherever you are, what is your role and what can you be doing to move the story forward?
yeah, yeah. And lastly, I'll just say this, bro. Like this week, I just been reflecting about our history as a people, and I was just thinking about like how many of our ancestors could actually read the Bible, had access to a Bible, like one on one that they could read, but innately knowing God is within it, having the faith and willpower and a dream that my future generations will live a totally different life than what I did. Like that faith, that willpower, that grit. And I look at us today, you know, like, and I have to remind myself to not complain, like you said, about where we come from, our circumstances, or us as a group of people, because our resiliency to keep going on, even whenever we don't get the same equal opportunities, but we still overcome, we still figure it out, you know, we still make a way, but it's because God is within us. You know, it's not this external thing, it's having that faith of a mustard seed and going on. And so to everybody out there, but especially to the single mothers, like keep the faith, keep God as the foundation, everybody. Like that, I want to end every episode with that, because I want to see more people really get back to God for themselves, and we'll really see the culture shift. Like imagine our ancestors, what they went through, and to see what we're living through today. Like whatever little thing we want to complain about, man, we really blessed. You know, like somebody else from another generation would love to have the problems we living in today in 2024. So like, let's just continue to take it and level up and continue to be our best selves, you know? So we appreciate y'all for tuning into this episode. Tony, anything else you want to say before we close up?
No, man, we wrapped it up good. Appreciate y'all, and we'll see you on the next one.
Y'all have a good one. Peace.